Imagine a world where every president, prime minister, general, CEO, judge, tech mogul, and spiritual leader is a woman. Not just one nation, not just a moment, the whole world. Not a matriarchy built on conquest, but a quiet replacement. A shift, not of dominance, but of direction. It didn't happen through revolution or bloodshed. It happened the way women have always led, patiently, persistently, invisibly, until suddenly, they were everywhere. But what would that world look like? Would peace finally take root? Would ego give way to empathy? Or would the same machinery of power simply change hands? Let's ask the question few dare to pose aloud. What if women ruled the world? Welcome to Parallel, a mix of storytelling and thought-provoking what-if scenarios, combining narrative fiction and analysis that includes real-world science, philosophy, and potential real-world implications. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment so that you do not miss out on the next episode. Because, one reality, sasti boom, is never enough.
We were supposed to be the ones who changed everything. They said a world led by women would be kinder, wiser, more just. They told us history would bend, that wars would end, that hunger and suffering would become relics of a bygone era. And yet, here I stand, looking at a world that still demands we prove ourselves. A world that still watches, waiting for us to fail. When they handed us the reins, was it truly because they believed in us? Or because they wanted us to carry the burden of an already broken world? They called it a new era, a matriarchy. But in the whispers of the old guard, I hear the same doubt, the same disdain. Let's see how long they last, they say. Let's see if they can hold it together, but we will. No, I will. Because while they talk, we build. While they doubt, we lead. While they wait for us to stumble, we run.
There is quite a history of women in power. Cleopatra ruled Egypt, not just with beauty and cunning, but with diplomacy and strategy. And yet, history remembers her not as a ruler, but as a seductress. Empress Wu Zetian of China wielded absolute power, yet she remains a controversial figure, demonized for doing what male rulers did without question. Margaret Thatcher led Britain with unwavering resolve, but she was called the Iron Lady, not as a compliment, but as a way to make her seem cold, unnatural. Golda Meir, Indira Gandhi, Angela Merkel, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf all led nations through crises. Even today, women in power are scrutinized differently. They must be strong, but not too strong. Compassionate, but not weak. Decisive, but not bossy. It begs the question, have women in leadership been doomed from the start? Not by their own abilities, but by a world that never truly wanted them to succeed? Are there any cracks appearing in the glass ceiling? Globally, only 10% of heads of state are women. Only 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. In tech, finance, religion, and even education, leadership remains largely male, yet something is shifting. New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern showed emotional intelligence in crisis leadership. Finland's Sanna Marin led with digital transparency and youthfulness. Rwanda has more women in parliament than men. Women lead some of the most effective grassroots movements in climate, healthcare, and social justice. But every rise is met with resistance. And the question remains, what would a truly woman-led world look like? Top to bottom? Would a matriarchal world be better? Would a world entirely led by women be more peaceful? Some studies suggest women are less likely to start wars. But history doesn't fully agree. Catherine the Great expanded Russia with military might. Indira Gandhi led India into war. Golda Meir commanded Israel through conflict. What about economics? Studies show that companies with more female leadership tend to be more stable, less corrupt. But would that apply on a global scale? Would diplomacy thrive under women, or would human nature, ambition, greed, fear win out in the end? If women led the world, not symbolically, but structurally, who wins? Firstly, families. Studies show women in leadership often advocate more for healthcare, education, and community stability. Secondly, businesses. Female-led companies statistically show higher profitability and better long-term risk management. Thirdly, peace. Nations with more women in government are less likely to go to war and more likely to invest in rebuilding. And fourthly, children. Girls gain role models. Boys gain emotional vocabulary. Both gain balance. But this isn't about women winning. It's about power shifting from vertical to horizontal, from command to collaboration. What about the wider societal impact? Is this a world remade? Politics could become less adversarial, more deliberative. Conflict resolution might favor inclusion over escalation. Workplaces could prioritize well-being alongside output. Masculinity might shed its armor, not to become weak, but to become real. But it's not utopia. Women are not a monolith. Some would govern with compassion. Others, with cruelty. Leadership doesn't make you good. It simply makes you visible. And the truth is, many women already lead where it matters most, in homes, in classrooms, in communities that survive not through conquest, but care. This isn't really about women ruling the world. It's about asking, why has the world been ruled in only one way? For so long? What if leadership wasn't based on dominance, but on wisdom? What if power wasn't about being feared, but being trusted? What if the question isn't who should rule, but how should we lead? Because the deeper truth is this: we are not meant to live divided. Not as men against women, not black against white, not Sunni against Shia, not Catholic against Protestant. We are all born into this world as if invited to a shared house, different rooms, same roof. So maybe the answer isn't to flip the power pyramid upside down. Maybe it's to flatten it, to stop asking who should rule, and start asking how we can all coexist in peace, in equity, in humanity, together. Thank you so much for listening in to this episode of Parallel. If you have an idea for a future episode, drop it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel grow its audience. Until the next episode, remember, one reality is never enough.